Hello, my name is Chris Hayden, and I am the Director of Students and Families here at Desert Hills Presbyterian Church. October is here. We are so excited for this month. A lot of cool things coming up. We've got some themes to share with you, a pretty cool announcement about Jingle Jam. But before we do anything, I want to introduce our new ministry coordinator, Helen Varga. Helen?
Thanks, Chris. Hey there, I'm Miss Helen. I am your new children's coordinator here at Desert Hills, and I'm sure you already read my bio that I'm a proud mom of 2 grown children and I love hockey and chocolate. But if not, please introduce yourself to me because I've heard great things about you and I can't wait to meet you. Back to you, Chris.
All right, so October is here and we've got an incredible theme for both the clubhouse and our elementary students up in Studio 15. So for more information and insight on what your students are going to be learning, check out this video.
So what do you think are the odds of a person making a hole-in-one? According to the National Hole-in-One Registry, the odds of an average golfer like you or me making a hole-in-one is 12,500 to 1. Now, if you're a professional golfer, first of all, congratulations. And second, the odds of you making a hole-in-one increase to 2,500 to 1. Way better odds for sure, but still not a sure thing, unlike what we will be teaching preschoolers this month. This month, we are talking about God's plans for me. Well, God's plans for you, me, our preschoolers, their parents, everyone. God has plans for every person, which is really good news because God's plans are always a hole-in-one. We can fully trust God's plans because God's plans are always the best. Now in week 1, we'll share one of the most exciting and well-loved Bible stories with our preschoolers, Noah's Ark. Now we love this story because we get to read all of it in one sitting. We know how God's plans work out. But imagine if you were Noah and his family. They had to trust and follow God's plans each step of the way over many, many years, not knowing how things would turn out. Now, fortunately for Noah, one thing he did know was that he could always trust God's plans, and he did. Now in week 2, we get to introduce preschoolers to the very first rainbow. And even better, we get to teach them that the rainbow is part of God's plans for them. See, every time we see a rainbow in the sky, God is also looking at that same rainbow and remembering the promise to never flood the entire world again. It's such a special story that reminds us that we are all a part of a much bigger plan. Now in week 3, we leave Noah safe and sound on dry ground, and we meet a new guy who trusted God's plans for him. His name is Joseph. Now, if anyone ever had reasons to doubt God's plans, it had to be Joseph. He went through some really painful times, but he shows us that we can trust God's plans even when they're hard. Now in week 4, we get to see that God's plans for Joseph really did work out. And not just for Joseph either. Because Joseph trusted and followed God's plans, he collected enough grain to save all of the people in Egypt from starving, plus Joseph's own family and people from all over the world. Now talk about a hole-in-one. Then in week 5, the prophet Jeremiah will help us wrap up the month with the wonderful truth that God knows the plans he has for us. This means that even when we don't understand the plans, we can still trust the one who does, because God loves us so much that he made plans for each and every one of us.
Question for you. When was the last time you wanted to give up, but for whatever reason, decided to keep going? Maybe you were cleaning out the basement, training for a marathon, working on a degree, or just a season of life that had its share of struggles. Whatever it was, it might have felt like you were climbing a mountain, hanging on for dear life. Maybe you weren't sure if you could take another step, but you kept going moment by moment, step by step. You trusted God, remained hopeful, and kept going, believing that something great would come on the other side of whatever you faced. This whole idea can be summed up with one word: grit. We define grit like this: refusing to give up when life gets hard. All of us, including the kids in your community, will face moments when we want to give up. But our prayer for the kids you connect with this month is that learning how God can help them have grit will encourage them to trust God, remain hopeful, and keep going to complete whatever task is set before them. This is an important idea that we believe could change a kid's life. We find examples and teachings about grit throughout many stories in the Bible, including the verse we hope kids learn this month. In Galatians 6:9, Paul writes, "Let us not become tired of doing good. At the right time, we will gather a crop if we don't give up." Paul encourages us to remember that showing up, even when it's hard, can ultimately lead us to something amazing. We just need to trust God and not give up. And we have some amazing Bible stories to help kids discover what that looks like in their own life. As we continue our journey through God's big story, we take a closer look at the lives of Joseph and Moses. These are two heroes of the faith, and we help kids see how their stories are connected through trusting God and not giving up. First, we talk about Joseph. In Genesis 37 and 39 and 40, we learn how Joseph is his father, Jacob's favorite son. Jacob makes this fact crystal clear when he offers Joseph a beautiful ornate robe. His brothers are completely jealous, a jealousy that's only fueled by Joseph's dreams that have them bowing down to him. They decided to sell him to a band of traders headed to Egypt. They cover up their actions by lying to Jacob, telling him Joseph had been killed. But even though Joseph was enslaved in Egypt, God continued to show up in Joseph's life and help him become successful in both Potiphar's house and even in prison when he was falsely accused. Bottom line, hold on because God is with you. In week 2, we continue Joseph's story in Genesis 41 through 45. Joseph finally had a chance to get out of jail. Pharaoh had a dream that no one could interpret. It's in this moment that the king's cupbearer, who was in prison with Joseph, remembered how Joseph had interpreted his dream. At once, Pharaoh sent for Joseph. He went and, with God's help, interpreted the dreams and offered a plan for helping Egypt survive the famine that God says is coming. Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of the entire kingdom. Sure enough, it all comes true, and a famine sweeps across the land. Joseph's brothers made a trek down to Egypt, and they ended up right in front of Joseph. After some back and forth over several weeks, Joseph couldn't stand it any longer. He revealed himself to his brothers and offered them forgiveness for everything that had happened. Joseph brings his whole family, the Israelites, down to Egypt. Through this whole ordeal, God uses Joseph and his circumstances to preserve the Israelites and fulfill the promise to Abraham. Bottom line, hold on, because there's a bigger story. In week 3, we head to Exodus 2, 1 through 10, and we find out what happens to Joseph's family in Egypt. The new Pharaoh of Egypt didn't know about Joseph. Pharaoh was scared because Joseph's family, God's people, the Israelites, were growing in number. Pharaoh enslaved them and made life miserable. That's where Moses comes in. Moses was born in a time when Pharaoh went even further and condemned that all Israelite babies be killed. Moses' mother and sister probably weren't too sure that putting Moses in a basket in the Nile River would keep him safe, but they were determined to keep Moses alive. They chose not to give up. God rescued Moses through the Pharaoh's daughter, who ended up bringing him into the palace as her own son and raising him as an Egyptian. Bottom line, hold on, even when you don't know what to do. Then in week 4, we head to passages in Exodus 3 through 12 and find that God has a plan to rescue the Israelites. It started when Moses was watching sheep on the side of a mountain and saw a bush that was on fire, but it wasn't burning up. Now, that alone might make anyone a little nervous, but then Moses heard the voice of God. God asked him to go up against the most powerful ruler of the time, to ask Pharaoh to set the Israelites free from enslavement. In this incredible story, we see how Moses trusted God and never gave up. God's people saw God show up in amazing ways, all to rescue them. Bottom line, hold on because God knows what you're going through. We finish up the month in Exodus 13 and 14. God's people are on their way out of Egypt. Everything was looking great for the Hebrews until Pharaoh changed his mind. Moses and the Hebrew people found themselves trapped between the Red Sea in front of them and Pharaoh's army in hot pursuit. But with God's help, Moses and the Israelites don't give up, even in a tough situation. With Moses' help, God made the miraculous happen, parting the Red Sea and allowing the Israelites to escape. Bottom line, hold on because God is still in control. We hope that the next time your kids face a time when they want to give up, they'll think about how God showed up for Joseph, Moses, and the Israelites. No matter what they face, God can still show up in their life too. They can trust God no matter what and find the grit they need to keep going.
Sounds like an incredible month here in our Studio 15 and Clubhouse Ministries. We've got one more announcement that affects both the elementary and our preschoolers. It's Jingle Jam 2022 this December 4th. We want you to be there and we want your kiddos to participate up on stage. This is going to be a night for the entire family, all your friends, all your kiddos' friends. Check this out.
Looking for something exciting for the entire family to do this holiday season? Take a break from all the baking, the shopping, and the endless rolls of wrapping paper and join us for an unforgettable Christmas experience complete with fun, games, music, and more. Jingle Jam, a Christmas party big enough for the whole family.
That's right, Jingle Jam, December 4th, 7 o'clock. Bring your friends. Well, until November, I'm Chris. Bye-bye.